and said, when I am free, I will come back for you. But their eyes reply, no, you won't. No one ever comes back. Numb. I just want to be numb. You see, the drugs they first gave me so that they can rape me properly, I now crave to take away the feeling of living. The only thing that gets me excited are these drugs and sometimes money. Neither belong to me, and both I slave for. But you see, you have to be careful what you ask for. Because soon I became a little too numb. Soon I began to cross my legs and fling my hair and say, you see that girl over there with the orange yellow shirt? She looks worthy to join us today. Soon I had a girl on my left and a girl on my right, and we became a trio of lies, all serving our daddy, our trafficker, our captor, believing we're serving ourselves, still completely convinced that the sun holds the disease. Soon, when I got to the point where my soul was to be lost to these lies, I conceived. Do you know what it's like to think about bringing life into the world when you are a slave? And in my indignation, I did the unthinkable. I destroyed the very gift of life given to me. In my fear of bringing this beauty into the dungeon of my darkness, I killed the very breath that could have woken me. And when I did this, you see, a part of me died. The part of me that grew to enjoy or like or accept the darkness died. But you see, I still hated the sun. I remember finally crying out, why? Sun, why am I here? Why have I done these things? I was so distorted, I couldn't make any money for my trafficker for weeks, and finally he decided that my life wasn't worth living. And he thought his plan was to take the breath out of my body. And as he began to do so, it was poetic that the sun would be rising. I remember crying out to the sun, kill me, son. I'm ready. There's no life here left for me. As I am weeping and laying there dying, my trafficker goes outside to refresh himself, get some air to finish the job. And as I am there, the sun did something miraculous. It spoke back. It said, why do you think you have to suffer? Don't you know that I came and suffered for you? It was then I realized, you see, that the sun was alive. That God was there and his son Jesus was looking at me, waiting for me, calling me, desperate to find me. And as I lay there, I reached up to him and I finally accepted his invitation. In the moments of my breath, as I am receiving this gift, traffickers in the outside were getting arrested. I saw nothing, I heard nothing but the sun and the glory of his light and the Son of God shining upon me, reminding me that I am his and he is my true father and he is the only one I need to call daddy. And it was that moment that my daddy freed me through his son. And yes, it took me 10 years to realize I was a victim. But you see, it only took me one day to believe in the Son. Thank you. Thank you so much. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you all so much. Thank you. I am going to be super, super brief. Thank you so much, Rondi, for bringing me back. I just want to say that Rest Stop Ministries means a lot to me. I speak, yes, around the world, teaching people and telling people my story and showing other survivors that they too can come out of this life and live a glorious life. But I remember thinking so many ministries, so many nonprofits wanted me to speak and wanted to hear my story and wanted to raise funding. And there are very few that really are doing the work. And I remember years ago, well before the actual house opened, me and Rondi sat together and prayed together. And I came to the house and prayed with the staff, prayed with all of them, walked through the house, and remember thinking, finally, I feel the presence of God in a place meant for the lost. And I am so grateful, Rondi, to you and your team for completing the job, staying committed to the job, and tirelessly working to save survivors in this area and around the country. Most people don't know this, but Rondi was one of the first people to bring my play to the college and recommend me to say this poem in front of 2,500 women who all prayed for me. And now I pray for you. Lord, bless this house. Bless Rondi, Rest Stop Ministries for all the great work that they have done in my life and survivors like me. Bless every member in this audience. Move their hearts to love you, and cherish those you love, his children. Used and abused by Satan, but Christ's love is greater. And he will continue to use everyone here, and especially you, Rondi, and the Rest Stop Ministry teams. Thank you. Love you. Thank you. Thank you.
We are so glad that Stacy moved from captive to captivated by Christ. And I appreciate that she's going to spend time with our residents tomorrow and pour into them, love on them, and encourage them and mentor them. I want to go back real quickly to something in her story a minute because it helps us make a key point. She talked about the breaking and the quota that girls on the streets have to make or risk all manner of harm and violence from their traffickers. And we use a very modest figure of $600 a night as an average quota. And we say that by removing 8 women at a time, that's the number of beds that we have, that we are disrupting the crime and keeping roughly $1,752,000 annually out of the hands of those running the criminal enterprise while simultaneously restoring these precious lives. And it basically costs us the same amount to serve a woman for a year as it does to incarcerate her for a year, but with way better outcomes. Have you ever known anyone in prison whose mental health gets better over time? I want to show you our mental health outcomes. You're going to see some things on the screen. This is 6.5 years of data. 89% of all residents remaining in our program for at least 6 months and up to 18 months saw a 75% or greater reduction in their PTSD. 97% of residents saw a decrease in feelings of loneliness after 6 months and 100% after 12 months. And loneliness is a huge trigger. 38.5% of residents presented moderate self-esteem at intake. 76.9% showed an increase in self-esteem after 6 months, and 77.8% increase after 12 months. And working on self-esteem is one of the hardest things that we do. 90% of residents saw stasis or an increase in positive growth after 6 months, and 100% after 12 and 18 months. And 91% of our residents were using positive active coping skills. They come in using maladaptive coping skills, but after 6 months, 91% using positive active coping, 93% after 12 months, and 98% after 18 months. We're proud of our total therapeutic environment that creates these kind of outcomes. These women walk through our doors hopeless. This is what we are able to do with your help. We provide the grace and the love and the professional, holistic trauma care that it takes over the long haul for them to heal. And we answer a major question: does anyone care?
The sacred has been stolen, the pure it has been broken. The pain in my body is no match for the pain in my soul. Through days and days of waiting, a rescue must be looming. Within this cage, the rage is spilling over. But there's one lucid thought. Oh, there's one brilliant thought. Is there grace enough for me? Is there a refuge for the weak? Is there justice for the kind of shame I am going through? Is there such a thing as love? Love that does not steal. Is there grace? Is there grace enough for me? Beaten by guilt and disgrace, and pummeled by many strangers, what will my life become when I am old and gray? The chill of sin in the air, there is a grasp on my mind. Every moment further suffocates my freedom, my freedom. But there's one lucid thought. Oh, there's one brilliant thought. Is there grace enough for me? Is there refuge for the weak? Is there justice for the kind of shame I am going through? And is there such a thing as a love that does not steal? Is there grace? Is there grace enough his word is true, it's true for all of us. If his word is true, it's true for all of us. If his word is true, it's true for all of us. If his word is true, it's true for all of us. There is grace enough for me. There is refuge for the weak. There is justice for the kind of shame I am going through. And there is such a thing as love, a love that does not steal. There is grace, there is grace, there is grace, there is grace, there is grace enough for me. There is grace enough for me.
Yes, there is grace enough for me. I know that now. But that's not how my story started. Listen to a poem I wrote. W, the letter I see on my forehead when I look in the mirror. Invisible to most, but some can see it. It's like a neon sign that tells them I'm tainted, dirty, disgusting, vile, atrocious, grotesque, broken, used. It's okay to hurt me. Many already have, and I'm still standing. The W was on every dumpster so that they knew where to find me, every tent or camper, every seedy motel door. The W was what I was known for. Now I still write it in block letters or script. I still see it, even though others can't. It's on the back covers of my notebooks, sometimes the papers I write. Even though others don't know, it's something I can't hide. What I see in the mirror, though it doesn't physically exist, I see it. I can't get away from it. It's like the scarlet letter. I wear it because I earned it. And I own what I've done. So even though I no longer have the behavior or the physical act of a whore I will always be. After all, I've been a whore since I was 3. I grew up in rural Appalachian, Ohio. I was born to an unwed mother who got pregnant at 17. She didn't want to have a child, so she refused to name me when I was born. The hospital wouldn't let either of us leave the hospital until I had a name, so my aunt gave me a name. My mother refused to take me home with her when she left the hospital, so I went home with my grandparents. I lived with them until I was 3. My grandfather was a member of the KKK. I didn't realize it then, but he was grooming me the whole time I lived with them. When I was 3, I went back to live with my completely dysfunctional mother. It was during this time, at the age of 3, that my life became a nightmare. This is when my abuse became constant. I would still go to my grandparents on weekends, and it was during this time that he started selling me to his fellow Klan members. It's also during this time that Mother's husband and his family, and then later her boyfriends, started sexually abusing me. Her second husband, however, is the biggest monster in my story. He came into the picture when I was 8. Mother told him what her previous husbands and boyfriends had done, like it was some kind of game or something, and he took it to a whole new level. The torture, the rape, the trafficking that I experienced at the hands of this man is indescribable. and I still struggle with flashbacks and nightmares from this today. At the age of 10, I started cutting. It was the only pain I had control of at that point. But soon this wasn't enough. I was epileptic and taking phenobarbital. When my mother started selling my prescription meds, I realized that there was something special, so I started saving them and taking many at once. I liked how this made me feel. This is also when I started drinking because Mother and her husband were drinking heavily and had access to it. When I was 12, I became pregnant and had an abortion to hide the secrets of what was going on at home. Soon after, I moved in with my grandmother. Grandmother was not a nice woman. She was a tyrant, to put it mildly. So the abuse was perpetuated. By the time I was 15, I was being tortured, bought, and sold constantly, and I'd gotten pregnant again and had a second abortion. Finally, one day, I had been tortured so severely and was feeling extremely guilty about the abortions and feeling like life wasn't going to change, so I overdosed on pills, many kinds of pills, because I thought this would ensure my success. I was on life support for 9 days. When I woke up, I was angry, so angry. I was angry at myself because I couldn't do anything right, including kill myself. I was angry at God for not allowing me to die. I was angry at my situation. And I was angry because when I woke up, there was no one except a social worker from Child Protective Services who told me that in the whole 9 days that I had been there, not a single person from my family had been there to visit. Not once, not even for a single minute. From the hospital, I went into foster care. The foster home I went to was good. I was blessed with a loving Christian foster home parents. I was their first foster child. They didn't know what they were getting when they got me. They didn't know what to do for me or how to love me. They tried their best and they did what they could. They were kind to me. They welcomed me into their home and their family. It was while living with them that I got saved when I attended church camp. When I came home from church camp, I was so on fire for the Lord. My foster parents were ecstatic. I am grateful for the time I had with them, and they stayed in contact with me after I left their home. I only lived with them for a few months. They thought it was best that I get more help than they could provide. I did run away from their home, though, so I get it. I didn't want them to love me because I believed I didn't deserve their love. I was too broken and too tainted for them to love me, and I believed if I let them love me, they were only going to hurt me too, so I had to protect myself and keep that from happening. It was my job to protect myself at this point because in foster care, all you really have is yourself. From my foster parents, I went to a county-run group home until they found another placement for me. An out-of-county group home where I lived until I was kicked out after 6 weeks because I got out on the roof of this third-story building and was going to jump off. They thought it was a problem. I didn't see a problem at all. I was determined I was going to die and no one or nothing was going to stand in my way. This led to psych hospital admission after psych hospital admission. I was a misfit with no real place in the world. My social worker was not happy about it. She was at her wit's end, trying to find a more permanent placement for me. She finally found a residential treatment center for mental health for adolescents. She said I had to make this placement work because they were out of options for me. But I knew this would be one more place that would kick me to the curb like all the others. I was there for 18 months until I aged out of foster care. When I aged out of foster care, I was literally pushed out the door with a garbage bag full of my belongings, and I had a huge meltdown. The meltdown was so huge that I ended up in the state mental hospital for 6 months. I was raped while at this hospital and had yet a third abortion. Eventually, I got well enough to begin adulting. I got a job, got an apartment, but you can imagine how difficult it would be to have any kind of healthy relationship. I did eventually get married and have 2 beautiful children. I thought this would keep me safe. I was wrong. I was allowed to be a stay-at-home mama, but I still had to earn my keep. He called it my extracurricular activities. But the rest of the story is too dark for me to share. It's part of the deep underground world. The shame I felt from this had me in such a dark place. I felt like even God was disgusted by me. But in his word, he is quick to remind me that he sent his son to cleanse me when he says in Isaiah 2:18-19, "Come now, let's settle this. Though your sins are like scarlet, I will make them white as snow. Though they are red like crimson, I make them as white as wool. If you obey me, you will have plenty to eat." So I knew that though I felt disgusting about myself, at least God saw something in me, though I wasn't sure what. I did believe he was keeping me safe and had been keeping me safe my whole life. But soon things escalated to the point that I was fearing for my life. Through circumstances only God could orchestrate, I was led to a Christian life coach through a Facebook post. I was afraid to reach out, fearing she would think I was too broken and beyond help. But long story short, she became my trauma coach through Skype because she lived in Tennessee. She introduced me to Celebrate Recovery and my first sponsor. Then she introduced me to Rest Stop Ministries. Miraculously, Rest Stop accepted me into their long-term residential restoration program, and they worked with their partners at Rescue One Global to help with an intervention to safely relocate me to Tennessee. I've been walking in freedom on the healing journey for over 2 years now. I came during the great COVID lockdown of 2020, and I graduated the 24-month program in April of 2022. I've lived in Rest Stop Transitional Apartment an additional 3 months while they helped find me a safe, affordable, permanent housing, a real challenge, but God worked another miracle. As an alumni, I'm still receiving some vital services like therapy and case management because working on my trauma, my recovery, my self-worth, and my relationship with God will be a lifelong pursuit. My Rest Stop family is helping me make this scary transition into full independence. I have a great full-time job in my field of choice and full benefits. I got a car donated by the Glade Church. One day before coming to Rest Stop, I asked my spiritual mother, if you could choose my name, what would it be? She said God told her Gala Ahava. Gala means redeemed, Ahava means deeply loved, and they both came from Hebrew. My last name, Mira, is another Hebrew word that God spoke to me one day, and it means shining light. To me, Gala, meaning redeemed, says it all. It caps it all off. It means that everything I've gone through, God has redeemed or restored, and he's made it better than I could have ever imagined. Every bit of it. It's through my faith that I have been able to heal. Why am I telling my story? I want my words to bring hope. I want them to prove that there's nothing God can't restore, redeem, and rescue you from. I want people to know that there's help out there. What we find hopeless or helpless doesn't have to be that way. I want my story to inspire, encourage, and to show the love that others have shown me. If my story impacts one person, telling it will have been worth it. What do I want my words to do to you? I want them to light the way, to be the light. W, the letter I see on my forehead when I look in the mirror. I have been a whore since I was 3. This is when my scarlet letter was given to me. But today, God says my W means so much more. I wear my W with my head held high, without all the guilt and shame, because today, God says that W comes with a new name. God calls me warrior. So I stand tall with my sword in hand and a warrior stance, because a warrior I am. Joshua 1:9, have I not commanded you, be strong and courageous. Do not be fearful, do not be dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. This is the verse that has gotten me through and still gets me through life every single day.
If his word is true, it's true for all of us. If his word is true, it's true for all of us. If his word is true, it's true for all of us. If his word is true, it's true for all of us. There is grace enough for me. There is refuge for the weak. There is justice for the kind of shame I am going through. And there is such a thing as love, a love that does not steal. There is grace. There is grace. There is grace. There is grace. There is grace enough for me. There is grace enough for me.
And Gala would tell you that it is grace and faith that got her through. She is a 24-monther. We told you earlier that the longer residents get to stay in our program, the better their outcomes. And so she is proof positive that, what is it that you say?
It works if you work it.
All right. But even with all you've accomplished, and she is living independently now, and we're just so proud with her, but even with all you've accomplished, it doesn't mean that the healing journey is over or that it's easy to transition to independence, right?
Right.
Leah? So all our data and experience tells us that the fear and anxiety start creeping back in as the women near the time to transition out of our program to independent living. And we know that this is the danger zone for relapse and recidivism. And that's why we're happy to report that because of a catalytic capacity building grant from the Jensen Project in Dallas, Texas, we've been able to launch an alumni aftercare plan, providing support services in that critical year of transition, like Galia's mentioned, still getting therapy and case management. She really is the first one to get this seamless transition with that already in place, and so we're so excited. 50% of our alumni have re-engaged with us at some point along the way, and many could benefit from services that we just have not had the capacity to provide until now. But we'll need your support to continue this after this 2-year grant is over. But it's so rewarding to run into alumni who are doing well. And not too long ago, I was traveling in East Tennessee, and I stopped at a Starbucks. And when I placed my order, I looked over at one of the baristas, and I saw that she was looking back at me. And at the same moment, we had that special recognition. And I said, "Jana, is that you?" And she just about leaped over the counter to greet me and give me a hug. And as our beautiful fate would have it, she was just about to clock out. And so I stayed and we had a chat. And here is the selfie that we took. And these founding staff members are probably crying about now, because Jana was the very first resident that ever walked through the doors of Rest Stop. And she didn't stay all that long. And so I took this moment to begin to sort of apologize to her. I said, Jana, honey, I know we were so green when we started. You probably felt like you were in a fishbowl and all this eager new staff ready to serve you. And I think we probably suffocated you to death. And she just stopped me right in my tracks. And she said, please stop. And I'll never forget what she said. She said, Miss Rondi, please stop. Rest Stop helped save my life. I have never felt so much love as when I was there. You all planted many seeds of hope for me that my life could be different. And she said, after I ran, I immediately regretted it. And so I made my way to my grandmother in Texas, and I got clean and sober. And I moved back here to rebuild relationships with my kids. And I'm manager here at Starbucks, and I'm using their education benefit to go back to school. She was so proud to tell me all the wonderful things that had happened in her life. And we've kept in touch, and her oldest daughter now has graduated from high school and will be starting college this fall. And she said her partner and Justin and she have been able to work on their credit scores and get a new car, and they're about to get a new home. And she's watching right now along with some of her friends. So Jana, we love you. Just want you to hear how proud and happy we are with you. Would you just join me in a big round of applause for Jana and other alumni who are doing so well? I promise we're winding down. Let me say this. The key to ending the cycle of victimization is the economic empowerment of our survivors. And so you can leave. I'm going to go over to the podium. We're going to wind this down. I'm going to ask Todd and Andrea Stevens and Kayla Davis and Greg and Kelly Orlowski to please come to the platform while this video, it's 2 minutes, plays, and we'll be finishing up.
We are facing a crisis here in Tennessee, sex trafficking. About 95 kids and countless adults are trafficked every month in the volunteer state.
Sickening to hear it, but nonprofits like Rest Stop Ministries in Lebanon take in as many women as they can to help them heal. And as News Channel 5's Claire Kopsky learned, they're now giving those survivors a chance to have a job while they recover with the help of fried green tomatoes.
6 years ago, Rondi Smith opened the doors to Rest Stop Ministries.
Restore survivors, stop oppression. The particular oppression that we want to stop is the criminal oppression of sex trafficking.
The nonprofit runs a long-term residential restoration program for trafficked women in Lebanon.
The pandemic has increased the exploitation because of the isolation that it created. Our referrals are going up, and we're almost a full house.
Amid higher referrals, the nonprofit became a social enterprise, a goal from the start.
The economic empowerment of our survivors is so critical. What we knew is that if we could have a social enterprise where we could control a trauma-informed environment for them to work in, that they could work sooner and begin to earn sooner.
They found a partner in local business owner Holly Cooper and her daughter Kayla.
Fried green tomatoes. We sell a lot of fried green tomatoes.
As seen on Shark Tank, the pair run a food truck and distribution of, you guessed it, fried green tomatoes. Knowing they needed to add staff to grow their business, hiring women at Rest Stop seemed to be a perfect pairing.
I was in active addiction for about 10 years. I don't think people understand the gravity, how hard it is to get a job when you've been in jail. You have no social security card, you have no ID, and you have no driver's license. And so it's like, where do you start?
The duo's heart for women needing a fresh start led to jobs packaging fried green tomato batter mix and secret sauce.
I have watched their self-esteem already raised to a new level. We know we need the healing time, but we also are ready to start saving because we've got to become economically independent.
And with the product showing up in local stores like Public Square Marketplace, Rest Stop is spreading their mission with every item sold.
We've actually had people who have traveled from other states who have visited us, who have found out about the ministry, who in turn have actually donated and given back to the ministry or specifically buy the products in here because they know that 100% of those proceeds go right back into Rest Stop.
A team of women all in to help these trafficked women get back on their feet. In Wilson County, Claire Kopsky, News Channel 5.
All right, and here we are. Andrea and Todd, the owners of Public Square Marketplace. And they are also receiving a Community Impact Award tonight. Because not only do they stock our Restore products, what doesn't sell tonight, but please buy a bunch of it, but it comes between galas to their place, and they give us 100% of the sales. They return that back to us. But also, and I thought Gala was going to be out here, but I think I told her to leave, they were Gala's first employers. Mentoring her in a safe environment while she built her confidence and gained some skills and waited for a legal name change. So employer partners like these are vital to our work. Now, y'all step forward. Come up. Everybody just stay kind of in a row. It was this time last year at our last gala that we launched our social enterprise partnership with Fried Green Tomatoes. I guess maybe I should bring you closer. And we hope you enjoyed the samples tonight and that you'll buy lots of product that's out there that our residents packed. But Kayla Davis, who along with her family received the Ginger Turner Vision Friend Award last year, so you're just going to hold this one, have these, for what they did for us with the Fried Green Tomatoes partnership. She is now going to help me present this year's Vision Friend Award. Just before she does, though, let me say that just last month, again, because of the Jensen grant, she was hired as our first social enterprise manager. And her husband, Tim, is Davis Woodworks, who made the beautiful reclaimed barnwood things. And we want you to buy a lot of those too. She is here to help me present the Vision Friend Award to step forward. This is Kelly and Greg Orlowski. You might know Kelly as Lady Crew. If you've ever bought any of our shirt stories, we call them, that it tells stories of our residents, and those shirts have been, again, they give us 100% of the proceeds of everything that sells through Lady Crew. But God's doing a new thing in their lives, and they are actually getting ready to donate all of the inventory from Lady Crew, which they wouldn't want me to tell you how much it is, but it's a big investment that they're making to us. And they're giving us their ready-made Shopify online store. They're setting us up a shipping center, while they're also helping us do a major brand. I put it over there, with new websites, which have been a long time coming, because that's what Greg's company does. Little Buddy & Co. does that. And all of this is a magnanimous in-kind donation that catapults us into the future far ahead of schedule. And that's why they are receiving the Vision Friend Award tonight. Y'all can exit. God is on the move, folks. He is. Do you feel the momentum? I hope you do. Matthew, come on down. I'm going to make some closing remarks as our board chair, Matthew Mullins, comes to close us out. Revival always has two parts, folks. There's dismantling that has to happen, and then remantling. And the dismantling of our old barn this year on our property is symbolic for us of the work that we do dismantling evil and systems of oppression and dismantling the lies of the enemy and dismantling pain and dismantling fear. And then we have to remantle with new truth and fresh vision and hope for the future. And after you've deconstructed what needs to go, you have to rebuild. And your tilled soil cannot remain empty. You have to plant new seed. The last picture that you'll see is the empty space where our barn once stood. And we love this quote that new seed is faithful. It roots deepest in places that are empty. And we can't wait to see what hope will grow. They told me to take it over there in case mine went out, because it's been...
That strong of a voice. I need the mic. Thank you for coming, and on behalf of the board, I wanted to thank you for coming and your support. It's always a little awkward coming up and asking for money, but when I sit there and hear Galea's story, You can call me a beggar, but I'm here begging. Rest Stop does great work, and it's evident. And I want to take just a quick moment to thank Rondi for all of her work that she selflessly does for the residents at Rest Stop. So this is the 10th Gala. 10 years is a long time. It's a big deal, big deal. Rest Stop has been really successful. And if you look at studies that people do on success factors for nonprofits, two things show up that are success factors for nonprofits that last 5, 6, 7, 10, 15 years. Two are recurring. One is determination or grit from the founder and the leadership team. And if you've ever talked to Rondi and you've met her leadership team, you know they've got that in spades. The second one is consistency. Consistency in the leadership team. Rondi mentioned that. She's been here from the beginning. The leadership team's been here 5+ years. But it's also consistency in private individuals donating their time and their money to the nonprofit. And Rest Stop has that in spades, and that's you guys in the room. So I wanted to thank you for your support along the way. Give yourself a hand. Rest Stop has had success on lots of different levels. Rondi has mentioned some of the grants that Rest Stop has received. We've gotten grants from the Tennessee state government. We've gotten a grant from the federal government, which was a highly competitive grant given to a handful of organizations across the country. Most recently, and that was a 3-year grant that's ending. Most recently, we've gotten a private grant for 2 years. Again, only a select few organizations received the grant across the country. Rest Stop was one of those. But we're able to get those grants not only because of all the metrics that Rondi went over, but also because they look at our donor base and our support that we have, and they go, we want to feed that fire. And so it's because of you that we're able to get those grants. And that's what we're here tonight to do. We need you to keep that up. This event is our largest fundraising event of the year. It goes to fund our annual fund every year. And in 2023, next year, we're working on the budget now, but we're going to need roughly $500,000 to fund the program, in addition to the grants and those kind of things. So tonight, our goal is we want to raise 20% of that for next year. So we want to raise, if you're good at math, $100,000 for next year. And that's what this card is here for. You can give tonight, you can give online, or if you'd like, you can give a commitment over the next 12 months, and you can give monthly. But you're giving to the Galeas and the Rondi's efforts, and people that you will probably never see, but they survive because Rest Stop exists, and Rest Stop exists because you give. So thank you for your support, and I just beg and ask on behalf of Galeas of the world that you'll help fund this next year's operating budget for $100,000 tonight. So thanks again for coming.
Great. Thank you. All right, with that, we are going to dismiss you. Let me give you these instructions. Drop your pledge card and checks in the baskets as you go, and you'll pick up a seed packet, Help Us Harvest Hope. If you're a silent auction winner and you're here, pick up your items. The Restore is open for parting gifts, including the original CD. If you've enjoyed the music tonight and there are other songs, just $5, y'all. We know CD technology is becoming obsolete, so it's on sale tonight, $5. You're going to hear a song because a video is going to play as you're exiting called The Faithful Gardener. Kim McLean, who could not be with us tonight due to illness, wrote that song and will perform it. The Faithful Gardener is dedicated to the memory of our gardening mentor, Homer Dudley, who went to be with the Lord this year, and our beekeeping mentor, Ronnie Woodard. And so watch the video as you go. Take your trash with you out of this room. Help us. And thank you. Thank you so much for being here. You are dismissed.
There are tears this soil. There are years of work and toil, and the dreams that once were sweet have been broken. In this field laid so bare, can you see what's really there? Precious seeds buried deep, waiting to open. And what has died will be reborn with the hope of every morning. Love abides and life goes on to be renewed. For life itself can never die, and what seems lost is there to find. Ashes, dust, the tender light of truth. And the faithful gardener knew, as his perfect garden grew, the joy and pain it would go through. The faithful gardener knew. With summer rain, trees grow tall, wild and beautiful and strong, and we all sing Eden's song together. When the fires consume the field, the soil is rich, the earth is healed. Changes come to bring new life forever. And what has died will be reborn with the hope of every morning. Love abides and life goes on to be renewed. For life itself can never die, and what seems lost is there to find. Ashes, dust, the tender light of truth. And the faithful gardener knew, as his perfect garden grew, the joy and pain it would go through. The faithful gardener knew. Let the waters come again, refresh the weary ground. It's life and death and life again. It circles all around and round and round. And it's a lot like me and you. The joy and pain we must go through. And Jesus felt it too. For the faithful gardener